My last video was about International Women's Day, and I came across an article um, about stoning. I believe it was about the recent bill in Brunei to introduce that, strongly supported by the Sultan. I was going to make this video specific about stoning, but I think I've done that before. There's a few things I'd like to cover here. Firstly, about stoning. When people say it's about Western standards, that's rubbish. That's always used as an excuse by people who want to defend evil. This isn't about Western standards, it's about universal human rights standards, what should be. And those are enshrined in international law. So to say it's about Western standards is evading the issue. Rather, I want to make this video about absolute monarchy. It seems to me in many parts of the world where there is a royal family, there's this very, very sycophantic attitude among a large proportion of the population. We can see this in Brunei, in Thailand, and I've made videos specifically about lèse-majesté laws in Thailand. Thailand's something that really I have very strong views on. Perhaps it's because in Thailand's supposed to be a constitutional monarchy, de jure, but de facto it's an absolute monarchy. You can't offend the Thai royal family without facing prison. So the de facto situation is that it's an absolute monarchy. Morocco, Saudi Arabia, I believe Kuwait, Qatar, some African states, I believe Swaziland, but don't quote me on that. Unfortunately, absolute monarchy does still exist in too many parts of the world. In Europe, the monarchies that we have are constitutional monarchies. So for example in Sweden, the Netherlands, Spain, Denmark and the UK. Recently in the UK there was a situation whereby, I made a video about this, a Fathers for Justice campaigner Tim Harris was jailed for defacing a portrait of the Queen. But it was not any sort of anti-royalist message, it was simply I think his words were, "Help me." This was a man who'd suffered from the family court system. It was a desperate act by a man who is trying to see his two young daughters. He's currently serving a 6-month prison sentence in, I think it's currently Brixton Prison. That is shameful. He should be freed immediately. And our justice system is an absolute disgrace that it allows this to happen. And I never thought I'd see the day when someone would be jailed in the United Kingdom for this. So I've done what I can to try and make sure that man is freed. But about the wider issue, I can honestly understand why Republicans have the stance they have. I actually do like a lot of the ceremonial side of things. I do think that's good for culture, I can understand that. But you know, with absolute monarchies, usually the justification behind them is that various kings, in this case the Sultan, sponsors very progressive social programs. So for example, world-class healthcare, infrastructure, etc. That can be said of the King of Thailand, it can be said of the Sultan of Brunei. But what I argue is that that is not enough to justify jailing someone for having an opinion, or in the case of Brunei, stoning, which the Sultan makes a very bizarre support of. He says, "It's a glorious moment in our history." What sort of sick mind does that man have? And you know, when I see people saying we love our king, we love our sultan, to me that's just brainwashing. They may genuinely love them, but to dehumanize these monarchs in this sort of way and say that they're above criticism is sinister, frankly. And thankfully we don't quite have that situation in this country, but I would say our royal family are shamefully far too close to these sort of totalitarian regimes, these absolute monarchies. We wine and dine them, we welcome them to this country. When Charles becomes king, I would like to see a lot more political pressure put on him to distance himself from these sort of regimes. Otherwise, I would seriously consider supporting our Republican cause in the UK. Now, at the moment, I'm broadly speaking a royalist. I believe it's good for our economy, I believe it's integral in our history, and the same arguments probably used in other monarchies around the world. But absolute monarchy, to me, is one of the most repugnant forms of totalitarianism, because you can see that people are brainwashed by it. Whether it's by the glamour, whether it's by the wealth, whether it's by the fact that these monarchs have the money in order to support social programs. That's what I would argue. They have the money anyway. It's not like they are people who have worked their entire life, as aid workers do, to help other people. They have the money anyway. Of course they're going to be under moral obligation to do something good with it. I mean, the Sultan of Brunei is one of the world's richest men. He's got a personal fleet, I believe, of 12 luxury cars. So what if he supports progressive social programs? He also supports stoning, which is an absolutely barbaric practice. So this is just a relatively quick video to say that it sickens me that absolute monarchy still exists in this world. That's bad enough, but what deeply troubles me is that some people, and otherwise decent people, actually cannot see that there's anything wrong with this. They cannot see that there's a personality cult around absolute monarchs, which is no different from, basically it's no different from what happens in North Korea, essentially. And that to me is very disturbing. No human being on this earth is above criticism. I don't care if you're the Sultan of Brunei or the King of Thailand. If you have flesh and blood, then you're not above criticism. And I really, it saddens and angers me that people cannot see this. That people can be so brainwashed by this sort of royalist situation that they cannot see it. And I honestly, even though I'm not a Republican, I can honestly see their argument. And I'll always, to the day I die, defend the right of Republicans to speak out against monarchy. And I'm not a person that's isn't capable of changing his stance. It may well be that I reconsider this and I come out and say, yeah, I'm a Republican. At the moment, I think the royal family are good for our economy, and it is an important part of our culture and history. But I can be swayed the other way, and I would consider it.